Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So we meet again in chapter 5, 5.2. Yeah. So this topic about employees provident fund. EPF is actually one of the social security program available in our country, Malaysia. EPF stand for Employees Provident Fund, or in bahasa Melayu we call it as Kumpulan Wang Simpanan Pekerja, KWSP. This is one of the social security providers, very important and vital social security providers in Malaysia. So Tunku Ali Zakri Raja Muhammad Alias, he is the CEO of EPF now. So this is very interesting quote. Yeah, EPF needs to be relevant to the young generation and the people who are in the informal sector. We can't force them to contribute to EPF. Instead, we have to make sure EPF is the best choice of investment for these people. But most importantly is the education. Do we put enough efforts to ensure our young people know the needs of protecting their future? For young people, the earlier they start, the better, because of the compounding power. We can relate these quotes from Tunku Ali Zakri from our previous or last week discussion in Google Classroom. I think many of you had mentioned about the importance of awareness, the knowledge about social security, the importance of saving, and how we can inculcate saving behavior among our generations. Objective of today's lecture is about introduction, membership, contribution, EPF accounts. Yeah, I will expose you with the various benefits of EPF. What are the offenses and penalties that can that can we learn? Yeah, and then the issues and threats. This is the website of EPF. Please log into the website and go to the website. You can get a lot of information from this website. Yeah, I will not go very detailed in this lecture because I believe you can browse to the internet and then you can get more and detailed information from the website. Introduction to EPF. EPF is a compulsory savings scheme in Malaysia. So I have mentioned a few times before that EPF is a compulsory saving, just like SOCSO, because both these two programs is actually made compulsory by the government. So when you work in formal sector workers, so you have to in the formal sector, so you have to contribute to EPF, meaning to say that every month in your payslip, in your monthly salary, there will be a deduction, and it is a must. So those companies or employees who fail to do so will be penalized under EPF Act. Yeah, it is the objective for EPF basically to provide social security for old age retirement to its members. So that is why we call this as a simpanan, yeah, as a saving, because later on when you retire, upon your retirement, you can have certain amount of money so that you can survive for a certain period of time at least. Yeah. It is also provide supplementary benefits to members to utilize part of their saving. In the same time, you must understand EPF provide benefit for the retirement and also for the preparation for retirement, or what we call pre-retirement. Yeah, so we will learn about this later. Yeah? So the EPF Act 1991 is the law that governing the EPF program. Yeah, in terms of the regulation and etc. It is administered under EPF. So the main function of EPF is number one, to receive and recover contribution. So the contribution made by the employer and employee will actually send to EPF. So EPF will manage this fund. So everybody, if you work in the formal sector worker, if you work in the formal sector, so you will have your own account, yeah, and EPF. So usually by referring to your IC number. Yeah. So EPF will manage this your money, yeah, and in the same time is to maintain members and employees account, yeah, and then from that saving and contribution made by employer and employee every month, so the money will be invested by EPF. We have learned about in our chapter 4. We talk about the trust fund and investment and many more, yeah, and at the end of the years, EPF will share the dividends in terms of to return the saving to the members, and later on when you retire, the EPF will return your saving plus with the dividend. Next, we are going to look into the membership. Who will be the members for EPF. It means the coverage. Yeah. So every employees in Malaysia reach age of 16 and employed under contract of service, then you can become a member of EPF. Yeah. So prior to 1998, expatriates and foreign workers also required to contribute to EPF. Okay, but they can elect to do or not to do so. Yeah, but so for those foreign workers and expatriates, if they become a member prior to 1998, they are still become a member until now. But now, after 1998, foreign workers and expatriates are no longer liable to contribute, but they can opt to do so. So employees who are Malaysian citizen are required to become a member who are not Malaysian citizen but now a permanent resident. They got a PR status in Malaysia, so you have to be what we call EPF member if you work in the formal sector. And then those who are not Malaysian citizen but have elected to contribute before 1st August. So who are they? Yeah, in terms of what the members of EPF, private sector employees only. Yeah. But for the government sector workers, only the non-pensionable public sector employees. I think I had mentioned for the last previous chapter on public sector pension. Yeah, so you have the choice upon your confirmation. You have to choose whether you want to go for a pension scheme or you want to go for EPF scheme. So EPF will cover for those who are opt for the EPF scheme. In the same time, for the third category of members, we have the voluntary contributors. So EPF also provide several schemes under voluntary contributors, for example iSuri, iSaraan, and etc. Okay, every employer need to pay to pay the what called the EPF contribution for employees the first week of the month. Okay, and then employer's responsibility to register you within with the EPF within 7 days of employment. So within 7 days of your employment, you have to send the details, the names of your employees to EPF, yeah, so that they can open an account for you. And if your employer not to do so, so you have to remind your employer, or sometimes certain organization they ask you to register by yourself, go to EPF and open your account, something like that. Yeah, fail to do so, so you can lodge a complaint to EPF, yeah, saying that your employer refused to do so or failed to do so. Then EPF will take action regarding on it. Yeah. And then the failure to do so, fine not exceeding 10,000 ringgit, and the imprisonment not more than 3 years or both for the employer. So again, the mandatory contribution is for those who are working in the formal sector workers, private sector, or non-pensionable workers in public sector before age 55-year-old and also after age 55-year-old. So EPF a separate program for those age before 55-year-old and after 55-year-old. I will explain about it later. And then in the same time, we have self-contribution, which is a self-contribution, iSaraan, iSuri, and top-up saving contribution. This is the mandatory contribution. Yeah, so the mandatory contribution before 55-year-old, basically your contribution or your saving in EPF will be divided into two accounts, account 1 and account 2. Account 1 is about 70% of your saving, and account 2 is 30% from your saving. Account 1, you cannot withdraw this money until you reach age 55-year-old. However, account 2, which is 30% of your saving, you can withdraw your money from time to time, yeah, from until age of 50-year-old. So after 55-year-old, yeah, if you're still working in the formal sector, your account, your 55-year-old account, okay, you can withdraw, and then if you still remain to work, then the account will call as account emas and as also account 55. Well, this is about the self-contribution. The first one is self-contribution. Self-contribution means voluntary participation of those who are not covered under the EPF Act. Yeah, so everyone can contribute for this one. Yeah, and then the second one, iSaraan, self-employed and do not earn a regular income to make a voluntary contribution towards your retirement. 50% government contribution, This one is actually everyone. For example, those who are working in the informal sector workers, like hawkers, and taxi drivers, yeah, etc. You can go for Aisaraan. Then under this Aisaraan, because the most important criteria is you don't have a regular income every month, yeah. So when you choose for this one, self-contribution, at least the government will provide 15% of government contribution, or the maximum of 250 ringgit per year, yeah, as a government contribution to your saving under ISRAN. The third one is Aisuri. It is catered especially to ensure the well-being of housewife, yeah, and then below 60-year-old, and minimum contribution is 5 ringgit per month, or 60 ringgit per annum, yeah. So this is actually the minimum contribution. So this one can be contributed by husband and also by the housewife themselves, yeah. And the fourth one is top up saving contribution. Topper may voluntarily make additional contribution to your family members to the EPF account. Meaning to say, like for example, like you have family members and they have the EPF account, so you like to top up, and you have to top up their contribution, because roughly the contribution of employees is about 11%, and yeah, 9 to 11%. Then you can top up that percentage into something about 12%, 13%, and etc. It's up to you. Okay, we break 5 minutes.